It's Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's time for the Greg Cherry Show, and it's also time to talk about an incredibly important thing involving women in wrestling media. And we've got a fantastic panel here today. Of course, Maddie Law is joining, as always. But let's quickly introduce who we've got. First of all, from SEScoops and a number of different outlets, Ella J, welcome back to the show.
What's up, guys? I'm happy to be back.
Always happy to have you back.
It's always a good thing to have you back, Ella. Next up, we have the runner-up of the first live Luck of the Draw, and also from WrestlingINC. It's Daisy Stone, freshly married. Hi,
yeah.
Daisy.
Do I have to crack any eggs or like do anything? Like I'm prepared still.
I didn't sign up for that day today, Daisy.
We gotta do it sometime, but I'll be prepared next time.
Yeah, not until the new year. We'll worry about that. And of course, we have the co-host of I'm gonna say the hit show, because let's face it, it's one of the most popular. It's Tag Talk with Kiley Fuller and Haley Ann. Welcome, ladies.
Last time we were here was your Christmas episode. Daisy was here too, and we witnessed the iconic Boogeyman entrance. Just saying.
Iconic.
The Christmas episode will have to happen again this year, whether or not
Yes, please.
the Boogeyman entrance or another absurd one. I mean, I did the Val Venus entrance when Sean was on, and that went incredibly poorly.
Oh, it went incredible. I don't know what you're talking about, Greg.
Well, for me, I'll say that. But that's not what we're talking about here today. We are talking about something that in recent weeks has become somewhat of an issue, and that's the importance of women, not only in the wrestling world in general, but in wrestling media, because there's been a lot of disrespect to women around that topic. And it's absurd, because women are a massive part of this. And the more good women that we have in the wrestling space, in the wrestling media space, the better, in my opinion. So,
100%.
What was that, man?
Oh, I just agreeing, 100%.
So I want to go around the horn here and ask all four of you, and you can take whatever order you want. First question I want to ask to the group, who are some of the positive influences in the world of wrestling media for you? You can raise your hand, or whoever wants to start, really.
I'll start.
Okay.
I always love going first. I mean, of course, the big one for me is Kate. She's always there when I need advice, and she's always willing to help anybody who needs it. I also think, just going back to my body slam days, Cassidy Haynes. I think he's someone who really understands the importance of having women in this space and putting them out there on a platform. So those are my two. I think my big ones.
Those are both good. Kate is obviously fantastic. We've had Kate on the show before, and Kate is just a delightful person.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't like Kate, you're the problem. I'll say that. Daisy, I saw you raise your hand next.
I just wanted to give a special shout out to Rick Ucchino with Fightful, and I know he has his hands in a lot of different pots, but he does the Fightful Collision post show. When I did WrestleMania here in Tampa, when I was still working for a news station, like it everything was weird. It was still the pandemic, like it was like the half full arena, and like we're spaced out in the press box, but I feel like Rick and I really had like a good connection, and like we were laughing and things like that. And he's just always seemed really supportive of women's wrestling. So I wanted to give a special shout out to him. Hopefully he's watching. But yeah, I'm trying to think of anybody else. I mean, there are just so many positive influences that I feel like even you, Greg, I hope you're coming back, giving like highlight to this important issue, but this is something that really needs to be addressed, because like female voices need to be highlighted. I mean, we're a big fan base, and more of us are getting into this space in media. So I really appreciate you for bringing attention to this.
of course. Ella, Haley, who wants to go next?
I'll go if Haley doesn't mind. Like Daisy, I have a lot, but I'll go with 2. And I know this may go to his head, but I have to give a shout out to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful, because, you know, especially for me, especially this last year since I've gone full time, it was a whole new territory for me. I'm now like working alongside Daisy too, and stuff like that, in news writing. And so I've been kind of like trying to float around and everything. And Sean has graciously dealt with all my questions that I have had, and he's never complained once about it. He's gone out of his way to help me and navigate new territory, like doing in-person correspondence at Rumble by myself on less than 24 hours notice. He was so gracious with helping me get through all of that. And also Alyssa Marino, like, I love her. Again, commentary is not something I really did much up until 2 years ago, and she's definitely one who is, you know, been a staple in the voices of women in wrestling. And so she's helped me a lot on the commentary side and kind of the indie scope too, as well.
That's absolutely fantastic. And if you ever want to knock Sean down a peg, let him know that his Bengals are technically last in the AFC North.
Okay.
Haley, go ahead.
Oh man, you know, the worst thing about going last is that I had to listen to everybody take every single one of the people I was going to say. That's great, but to piggyback off of what Ella said, I also want to give a shout out to Sean. Not only has he been super supportive with, you know, Tag Talk and Fightful Overbooked, but my stuff with Nerds and Beyond as well. You know, I lead all the wrestling coverage over there. I got to cover SummerSlam over the summer, which was my first like big event like that, and I was understandably very nervous about it. And Sean was there, and he was very encouraging and very helpful, and was just, I don't know, like just there for anything I needed, advice, or just to like calm me down or whatever. I really respect Sean a lot. But also, I'm gonna say Keeks. I'll eat with Keeks. I love Keeks. She's somebody that has also really supported me, and she supports like literally everybody. I love her. She's such a positive influence, especially in the AEW space, which, you know. But yeah, I've been on her show before, and she's just always very welcoming and very supportive, and yeah, I really love Keith.
Fantastic. So I do want to bring this up too. I mentioned that there was some negativity going around as far as, you know, women in wrestling and women in wrestling media. What do you think could be improved to make both spaces a little more inclusive and supportive? Because some of the things that I've seen, like the plagiarism of people's articles, just the lack of TV time for women's wrestlers, like it seems we're taking massive steps back from where we.
I will start out on this. Like when I am sitting here on our couch, when I am writing for Wrestling Inc. and there's a press conference and I hear no women's voices, I'm like, what the heck? Like, I mean, obviously I'm not going to be able to travel to all of these things. I'm still a freelance writer and I'm grateful for what I have, but I'm like, if you're asking about Taylor Swift, like, I mean, I come from, I don't want to say a legitimate background because of course wrestling journalism is legitimate, but coming from a television background, like these guys trying to be cutesy, like it's not funny. And any woman in that room is going to be like, what the hell did you just say? So when I don't hear a female voice, like the representation in that room is really what gets to me.
I'll be at Survivor Series and hopefully get called on. I can't control it, but I know I've seen I know of at least 5 women who are going to Survivor Series that will be there. I can't count if I don't know, can't guarantee they'll call on us, but there will be at least 5 women in that room. Can tell you that right off the bat.
You need to be calling on women. It needs to be equal representation.
I also think there's this expectation sometimes when women come into wrestling media that they have the sole responsibility of covering women's wrestling, and that's all they can do. And then men don't have that responsibility. And I love talking about women's wrestling, but I also feel like there's this perception that women come into the space and they only do women's wrestling and men never do. And I want to talk about men's wrestling sometimes. I want to talk about tag wrestling. And I also feel like men in wrestling media should be more willing to talk about women's wrestling and talk about it with the same amount of time and attention that they pay to men's wrestling, because it's so often they don't. And that's reflected in, you know, the amount of TV time that women's wrestlers get and things like that. But there's definitely a hierarchy there.
There's so many things. I mean, you two named like really good ones. I mean, I'm one who not exclusively, but is a big proponent of like women's wrestling and whatever. But like you said too, I love being able to cover non-women's wrestling stuff as well, like through my writing and stuff like that. You know, I think I feel like generally we've gotten more women like on writing brands and stuff. Like even I can just say like Daisy, you know, I can't count other brands just going based off of that. Like in the last year, that the brands that I've been on, they've added more women to their brand and all of that in writing. And I think a couple of other places are doing that, but also they shouldn't be doing that just to fulfill a quota or have just to have a token woman there just for that. It should be because of our work and our dedication and all of that. You know, there should be representation, but also I feel like sometimes it's for the wrong reasons. You know, we're trying to get to that even playing field. I think it's gotten a little bit better, but sometimes it becomes blatantly obvious when you're kind of just put into a position because they either feel bad or they want to fulfill a quota or they want to make themselves look good. I don't know. Sometimes it's hard to tell, but genuinely taking an interest in our work and believing in us, I think, is important too.
Anything to add, Haley?
You're going like first or second
next time, Haley.
I'm about to go first next time.
I was going to say, please.
I guess to add to Daisy's point about more women in, you know, media rooms, more women doing interviews and just media in general. You know, no offense to people that ask questions like that. It happens. But also if a woman asked a question like that, we would be clowned to hacking back on social media, and it just wouldn't be great, you know? So I feel like there's also kind of a feeling within women that get these opportunities that like we have to make the most of it because we don't know if we're going to get that opportunity again. We don't know if we're going to be in those rooms. So we have to take advantage of literally every single opportunity we get, interviews, media, etc., even jobs. Especially in wrestling media, there aren't a lot of jobs that pay, unfortunately, which is what it is. But also, you know, it's, I don't know. I don't know.
We get you, girl.
Yeah. And it's a real thing, especially when you say about interviews and like taking the opportunity. When I got hired at WrestlingINC and I was like going through to like do a hyperlink, I found something that only I had about Damian Priest when I was with another company. And I'm like, holy shit, like they know who I was because of this. And I got that one soundbite that they actually pulled and did a whole article on. And now that's what I'm doing. So it's like, you got to take those opportunities and run with it. And it was like, Damian Priest talking about somebody at a gas station coming up to him and being like, hey, this representation with Bad Bunny is crazy. And that's what I wrote the whole thing on. So it's taking the opportunities and also making opportunity for yourself, even if you're in a freelance position and you find this sound bite or you get this interview with somebody, like even like on the street, like, okay, I'm taking this opportunity. I don't care if anybody thinks that I'm overstepping. That's a big thing, I think, with women in any job. Like, you think you're overstepping, and who cares? If you are, what are they going to say? What are they going to do? You're getting clicks. Who cares?
Josh Mansfield is asking in the chat, do you think that there should be another Evolution PLE, or is there no longer a need since it was partially done to the first few Saudi shows? Again, I won't take the reins on this because it's not my place to say. I love one, but that's my opinion. Where do our panelists stand? Would you like to see another?
What do you think?
Huh?
Haley, what do you think?
Absolutely, I would love to see another Evolution pay-per-view or PLE. You know, I think that there was a lot of hype surrounding the first one. I think a lot of people, you know, love women's wrestling, love supporting women's wrestling, and it got a lot of great feedback when they did it the first time. So I'm not sure why they haven't pulled the trigger on doing it again. But I would definitely love to see it. There's more than enough women, not just legends, but current superstars as well across the main roster and in NXT that they could, you know, really highlight with another Evolution. So
I agree as well. I think they have not only the roster to be able to, but I also don't want it to feel disingenuous. Like how the feeling was if another company were to run another all women's pay-per-view in the next year or so. I don't want it to feel disingenuous and kind of like forced because, you know, we've not mobbed at, kind of have mobbed after them, you know, but I think it's rightful mobbing. You know, we had like all this success and then just like nothing happened, no word, no update, no nothing. You know, there's been various rumors and reports of why we haven't. You know, I mean, I don't think we necessarily need it, but I would love to see it, you know. Like Haley said, the women's division is so expansive. Like we just had a 16-woman battle royal on Raw. That's literally only like half the main roster too. Like that itself, that's a huge number right there, you know. That's like half of a pay-per-view card right there. So I want to, but I also don't want it to feel like disingenuous or forced. So I don't know how they set that up, but of course I would love to see another one.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with NXT, I believe it was, I think when maybe right before we went on our honeymoon, there were 4 women's matches in a row. And like one of my favorite editors was like, holy shit, were there just 4 women's matches? And I was like, yeah, like that's crazy. And I know I'm a little bit older than the rest of the ladies on the panel. So like things like that never happened when I was growing up watching wrestling. I remember, I think I've told this story before, like being allowed to stay up late because Lita and Trish were main eventing Raw. So like things like that, like thankfully I'm not desensitized to it now, but when I see it, I'm like, oh, thank God. But also it's becoming more normal.
I just want to add before Kiley adds her opinion. I go back sometimes and watch some of the old episodes of Raw from like the Ruthless Aggression era. And I find myself having to skip past like the bikini battle royals and stuff. It's like, I know they can do better than this. And thankfully we've evolved to a point where they get to show their in-ring talents. It's like they get to wrestle and show how good they are. And a lot of times they're better than the dudes. So it's like, why not focus on them more? You know?
Yeah. I don't think it's a need. It's definitely a want. But I think I kind of agree with what Ella was saying, that they can't just make another Evolution and just put these matches together and then celebrate it like they did something really major, because that's what happened last time. If there's not the TV time to back it up, you know, we're not building these matches appropriately. And then also if there's no follow-up, you know, the first Evolution was a lot of fun. And I think they really built this whole arc of, you know, the women's revolution, you know, all these changes that are happening, this like feminist story in wrestling, which got a lot of women hooked because we can identify with that. And then after that, there really was a major backslide. So if they're going to do another one, it needs to be a stepping stone to something greater. It can't just be the peak of something.
There you go. There's your question answered, Josh. Gonna get in one more question before Ella has to head out. We talked about the positive influences. Specifically, who are some of the women in this space that inspire you? I know some of you have gone over a couple women that have. Is there anybody else that you would like to mention?
I'll go first if that's okay. You know, I obviously mentioned Alyssa. She's one who I'm very close friends with now, but especially starting out for me, again, I didn't go into this intending it to be a career. It was just more a hobby in podcasting. And so starting out, like Alicia too was huge. Like I've been following her since 2017, you know, before she did MLW and AEW and all that stuff. So I was watching her stuff for a long time. And she really inspired me to get into like interviewing and like content creating and all of that, going up and kind of her style and how she, you know, conducted her interviews and the research aspect of that. So that kind of motivated and inspired me, kind of, I guess, sculpted my approach to interviews as well. And also my good friend Samira, who is now doing her own thing as a correspondent, a ring announcer, a backstage interviewer for a lot of indie promotions. Want to give her a shout out. She's great. I've been friends with her for years. So yeah, I would say those two plus Alyssa definitely are three women in this space. Obviously, you three as well. I mean, we correspond, you know, sometimes from a distance, but it's always kind of positive energy, you know, going on if we've worked together a couple times. So just want to give a shout out to you three too as well. So absolutely.
There you go. Who wants to go next?
For me, okay, go ahead. Okay, fine.
No.
Okay, I'll go.
Okay.
For me, I mean, this is gonna sound cheesy, but Kiley, first and foremost.
I can guarantee you Kiley was going to say you. So.
Probably not. But Kiley, you know, she's so supportive of just not only my on-screen stuff, but my writing as well. And like, just sometimes like I need a break, and she's so supportive of that and understanding. And I don't know, I just love Kiley. But who else? Emily Mayhill, she's incredible. The barriers and the doors that she's been able to break down for so many women in the space is incredible. I love hearing her voice in, you know, media spaces. Stephanie Chase as well. I love Stephanie. Lyric, Charlie at Wrestle Purists, an incredible person. There's so many incredible women in the space. Nikki Bushi as well. I love Nikki.
I gotta hop off before whoever talks next. I'm so sorry. I had a prior obligation, duty calls.
Don't apologize. Do not apologize, please.
But like I said, Daisy, I'm gonna try to get my hand up. I can't guarantee they'll call on me at Survivor Series, but so stay tuned.
I'm working for Survivor Series, so I better get to write your question.
Period.
Deal. Thank you guys so much, guys. Follow all of these lovely ladies too. I'm sure they'll share their handles at the end, but go follow them.
Love you, boo.
Always love having Ella on the show. Kiley, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say Ella.
I think I should just leave. You know.
Well, obviously Haley. I feel like that's an obvious one. Haley and I just.
I feel like you have to say that because I said you.
Well, I figured it was a given. Like the thought did occur to me, but I was like, well, obviously that's like an easy one. But I think Ella, how like quickly Ella reached where she is super, super inspiring. And also, Haley mentioned Charlie from Wrestle Purist. Charlie is one of the smartest wrestling fans I think I've ever met in my entire life. And she gets no credit for it. No credit for it at all. She is, if you give her a mic, she will dissect a wrestling show and tell you everything that you need to know about it. And it is so cool. So Charlie, definitely, Ella, Haley, Daisy, and also Lyric. I feel like Lyric's another one that just is so in tune with not just like the stories of wrestling and all that kind of stuff, but the bigger meaning of things. There's so many. Oh, Alex from Church of Joshi. How could I forget Alex? Love Alex. Alex was one of the ones who, when I first started in wrestling media, really held my hand and you know, taught me how to do it, you know, showed me the ropes and got me where I am. So Alex is another one.
Alex just followed me yesterday, and I was like, what? I just like almost passed it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love you.
I think I'm still waiting for a follow from Alex, to be honest. Daisy, how about you?
That is a good question. Of course, when I first started at Wrestling Inc., obviously, I know even last Christmas we were talking about my story where I was leaving my full-time job because it fucking sucked. And when I got this freelance position, which is very quickly evolved into a much larger position, I was like, oh, thank God Ella's there. I'm like, I've seen Ella on your show. Like, she seems like such a great girl. And she is. She's so lovely. And then, of course, with you both on the Christmas show, when we started following each other on Twitter, I'm like, these ladies are so fucking cool. Like, thank God I have like a safe space on Twitter. And also, I believe one of the first ladies that started following me on Twitter was Wrestling Wind Down. And I love to see Black women in this space as well. I mean, of course, I'm a bleach blonde white girl. I don't know much about that side of the space. So being able to see different perspectives from different things like that has been wonderful. And Greg, I believe you said about different like women's wrestlers as well in your first question.
Yeah, we can throw in women's wrestlers too.
Okay. So I wanted to say this because I've been working on a feature for work about where divas from the I almost said the 1900s, Jesus Christ. The 90s and the early 2000s are today. And I will say that Sable was one of the women that initially got me into wrestling. I am obsessed with Sable. I have her first Playboy cover to like put in a frame. Like she got me. I've been obsessed with Playboy and I'm married to a man. Like, I mean, say about that what you will, don't care. I'm obsessed with Playboy. She got me obsessed with Playboy, like Googling stuff, and I think it was last year I ordered the Playboy cover, and she was one of the first women that kind of like went after WWE. Of course, she went back, but she kind of fought against them. So that was a big thing, and especially researching like, oh my gosh, but of course, nothing with her era has aged well. The bra and panties matches, the Playboy pillow fights or whatever. But she sucked me in, and that's it. I've been obsessed ever since. Like, I don't know. I love beautiful women. What can I say?
Who doesn't? The next question I have for you is there any company or any person that you think is going above and beyond to support women that should be recognized? Like, is there anybody, whether it's wrestling media, whether it's somebody leading a company, basically anybody who tries their best to raise women up?
Body Slam.
Yes.
Yeah. That's just get enough credit for the way that he runs that website, but also like just this rebrand that he's been doing and bringing in so much variety with women in this space. It's just incredible. And I just feel like he doesn't get a lot of credit for it. And, Kiley and I were at Body Slam when we first started out, and he was always so supportive of our ideas and our journeys. And, my writing stuff as well. Anytime I've had an idea that I've pitched to him, he's always been like, absolutely, go for it. And, that's how the Hangman butterfly jeans piece came about. It's still one of my favorite things that I've been able to write. And whenever I interview for a job or anybody asks me, like, how did you get your start or whatever, I always first mention Cass, because I truly would not be here without Cass. I love that man.
Cass is an incredible human being. People don't realize how much he does behind the scenes to get people who are at Body Slam the attention they deserve. So major props to Body Slam. Also, I mean, it's a wrestling promotion, Impact. I wanted to shout out Impact because I think Impact, especially this last year, has really sort of taken the reins as at least in North America, the place for women's wrestling. If you want women's wrestling that is given the same respect and attention as the male counterpart, I really do. And I don't know what's going to happen with the TNA rebrand. I'm super excited about it. Some people aren't, but it's nostalgic for me. I'm excited. But regardless, I think that Impact has become a safe space for women's wrestlers to go and be creative and be different and not have to fit into like a television, like a mold. WWE to some extent, but it's WWE, and that's I don't want to talk about them. I don't think get me started on AEW, but yeah, Impact.
You know, one of the things that a lot of people don't give TNA credit for is when they started the Knockouts division, it was really the best women's wrestling maybe in the world. And don't get enough credit for it. So seeing them go back to that and seeing where the women's division is now, I think it's better now than it was back then. I think it's going to be. Daisy, what about you?
Oh my goodness. Well, I have not had the pleasure yet of talking to Cats with Body Slam, but I see everything that goes on Twitter. I see the new shows they're adding with all these the representation. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have to listen to these. But I will. I've been the only person that has not given a shout out to Sean yet, but I have a mass amount of love for Sean Ross Sapp. We follow each other. He's reached out to me on stories that are not even wrestling related when I was still in TV news, like, hey, this is a great story. I'm going to share this. And I have a lot of respect for him as an interviewer and how he does his journalistic practices. Not that I was ever great at journalistic practices, but but I think the company, and I go off of my last answer with WWE, how they have evolved their women's division. I am obviously not the same person I was in, I won't say 1998, because I was still young then.
I was born in 98.
Excuse you?
I wasn't even a thought. So.
I was not the same person I was 10 years ago. I was born in 93. I wasn't the same person I was 10 years ago. So how WWE has evolved. Stop it. How they have evolved with their women's division from Sable and Tori with the Playboy pillow fights to what we are seeing now with Bianca, Becky. Like I have a lot of respect for that. So in that regards, I have a lot of respect for Triple H. I'm not going to put that on anybody else, but Papa H.
There you go. Before we go into the next question, I just want to say that I am incredibly terrible with promoting stuff. But since you're here, Haley, do you want to talk about this?
Oh, eating the indies. Absolutely. So this is an opportunity that came about at around this time last year. Stephen Bradley had reached out to me, and, you know, we're kind of friends in passing, I guess. We know each other through GCW, but he came to me with this idea like, hey, I really want to start this cookbook, and it's called Eating the Indies, and it's going to highlight independent wrestlers, and I would really love if you were involved. And without hesitation, I said, absolutely. Like, what do you need from me? And he was like, well, I would really love if you, conducted interviews and did the bios for the book. And he was like, obviously, I'll pay you. And so that was my first, really big opportunity like that. And becoming a published author is something that I've always wanted to do. So I really appreciated that and all the guidance that Stephen gave me through that process. It was very hard. There were a lot of times where I was sitting there crying while writing, just because I was so stressed with days of research and just my fingers felt like they were gonna burn off. But I'm so proud of it and I love it so much, and I'm so happy that I got that opportunity, and I hope I get to do more wrestling books. I would love to.
I was so proud of you for this. Like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to buy it. Like when we finally move and I have room to cook.
I didn't even know about this wrestling cookbook. I cook all the time, so I'm very interested in this.
Terrible
I
promoting.
was just thinking about your ass making enchiladas the other day. On air.
I messaged Haley about promoting that on my show, and I'm incredibly terrible with promoting stuff. So at least we are on to do the promotion justice. So yeah, go check out Eating the Indies where it's available. My next question: what do you want your legacy to be in the wrestling media space?
Ooh, that's a good question.
That is a great question. I'll go first because within, gosh, God willing, a few months, maybe a year, I'll be a mom. So I just want my kids to know, because my mom is who got me into wrestling. Like, I've told this story before. She accidentally got King of the Ring 98. So like, it's my mom that got me into wrestling. So I just want every little girl, my kids included, because I know deep down to every like little like egg in my body that I'm going to have girls. So I just want them to know that they can do anything. And this has always been such a like a male dominated thing that who cares? Like who cares? Like if you slip up, if somebody's going to laugh at you and it's a guy, like punch him. Like, like I don't know. It's just anybody can do anything, no matter your gender, your sex, what you identify as. And that's really what I want anybody to know.
There you go.
I just want people to know that it's okay to watch wrestling and not treat it like the super macho sport. Because I feel if you watch wrestling and you treat it like a sport, that is totally fine. But I feel like sometimes people, and I think Haley has the same experience, when we really buy into a story in wrestling, or we're super emotional about it or something like that, there's a significant portion of men who look down on that. And they're like, that's not the way wrestling is supposed to be watched. Like it's a sport. You need to watch it for like the athleticism and all that kind of stuff, which is cool. And I do. I love Phoenix. I love all that kind of stuff. But I want people to feel like safe and comfortable in talking about wrestling the same way that we talk about like our favorite movies and our favorite books and those kinds of things, and enjoying the artistic side of wrestling, which has been labeled like feminine for whatever reason. It's like this feminine thing, which is totally okay. I want wrestling to be a space where people can be emotional and be invested and not get laughed at for the whole wrestling isn't real. Like you're dumb, you're a child, that kind of stuff. That's what I want.
I got laughed at for a long time when I was younger. So
Same.
Mm-hmm.
Kylie and I get laughed at all the time.
it's not fair. Who cares? Are you hurting anybody? Is it consensual? Is everybody safe? Yes. Okay, great.
We should get Joel Pearl to make a compilation of the comments he deletes. From
Oh.
Some of them are great. But to answer your question, for me, so wrestling media for me is not something I ever saw myself doing. I had a career switch about 2 years ago. I am an entertainment writer. That has always been my passion. I've been doing that for 4 years now. But I got a little burnt out with it. And during the pandemic, I decided that I wanted to move into wrestling and put, my passions for watching wrestling into writing. And so that's kind of how I got into the space. But just seeing the treatment that women face from an outside perspective, like I had never seen anything like that before. And it really angers me. And it angered me at the time, and it's really lit a fire under me to always make sure that the people that are coming up behind me, that they feel safe and respected, and they know that there are women that, they can come to for advice, or, they never have to be afraid of, if a man says something to them or does something to them, that they know that there are people that they can come and talk to, and that it's a safe space.
Yeah, the amount of like vitriol and hatred that is just directed at women from some of these anonymous accounts, some of these like troll accounts or whatever you want to call it, is absolutely absurd. There's no place for it. I don't understand.
It's in all sports media too. Like
I can co-sign that. Trust me.
I can't understand it. Y'all are just as much as fans as the male counterpart, I don't understand why there's got to be such a disconnect just from that male side of the fan base.
To me, that's what I don't understand. Do people think women's brains are like wired differently, that we don't understand football, that we don't understand wrestling, that we don't understand wrestling's fake? Like, do people think this? Like, our brains are the same? Like, I that's something I've never understood. Like, how is the female brain different with covering a sport or sports entertainment than a man's?
And I think it's largely like a misogynistic thing, because I feel like sports for so long have been labeled as like a male thing, and like, women can't like sports, women can't watch sports or cover sports. Like, they have their spaces. Like, they don't need to be kind of intermingling with us. And I never understood it either, because I know a lot of women that cover sports that are way smarter than some of the men that cover sports.
Oh my God, yes.
I don't get it either.
It's also like this, some men just have this fear that if women come into like a masculine, manly space, that they're going to ruin it. Because women just can't possibly comprehend what goes on in there. Partly because I think they're scared of femininity. I think they're scared of anything remotely feminine. And also, I think men just entrench themselves in anything that can be manly. So that way, one, they aren't picked on by other men. They aren't bullied by other men. And two, because it makes them feel better.
Yeah.
Better than women and better than other men. So when a woman comes into, sports media or a sports fandom or something like that, that's like, a red flag to a lot of men. So,
speaking guys, I'm looking at you right now. It's okay for women to be better at stuff than you are. It's perfectly okay.
You said it.
Yeah.
Maddie, you've been kind of quiet this episode. Do you have any questions?
I've just been enjoying hearing this forum because it's necessary, because you guys are being undermined almost on a daily for no fucking reason.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to know, how do you guys deal with all this backlash that does come y'all's way?
The Twitter mute button.
Fine.
We probably have like 1,000 people blocked on Twitter at this point.
Oh, the block button is one of my favorite features.
And the Twitter filter feature really helps, because whenever I tweet something, especially if it's about AEW, like I think All Out last year, I had posted something about people walking out during the women's match, and it went viral on Twitter.
Yeah, I remember that actually.
And the comments were bad, but I didn't see any of them. I just went on enjoying the show, enjoying the rest of my trip. Didn't look at it ever again. Didn't care.
Filters, notification filters, because you're never going to be able to block every possible person who could send you something. I preemptively block people. If I see them being mean to someone else, I'll block them just in case. But the filters, they really work wonders. And also, sometimes you do end up seeing someone has said something about you, or sometimes I've noticed on my my For You tab on Twitter, screenshots of my tweets that are reposted by someone else will come up on my For You thing. And it's people like, oh, all these people at Fightful are so dumb. I hate all these Fightful women, blah, blah, blah.
It's always Fightful. Always.
It's always Fightful. It's
always
so
Fightful.
funny to me, because they have no clue what goes on at Fightful. And it's Fightful's a great place to be. I don't understand it. But so you're always going to see that stuff. But now it's kind of funny. Like, oh, you went out of your way to screenshot my tweet and write this tweet about me. Like, it's so it's so dumb. It's so silly. And also, you kind of the people who are doing that, who are saying the misogynistic things, or sometimes it's just stuff about Fightful, or sometimes people will say racist things on Twitter. It's kind of pathetic. I have the tiniest little bit of pity for them, that is their way to get attention in their life, is hate. It's so disgusting. But most times I just laugh. I'm gonna be honest. It's kind of funny.
There was this one time there's like, I don't know if it's a person or a group of people, but they have accounts targeting like everybody at Fightful.
Fake.
And even though
I don't know how y'all do it.
Twitter filters like filtered out. Somehow I saw this tweet at me one time, and it was about Doc and Kiley and I. And somebody said it was so weird that we called him our internet dad. And then they went on this whole spree talking about how Kiley and I were like incest sisters. And you just have to laugh because it's absolutely ridiculous.
Do you
You
remember?
have to laugh.
Haley, do you remember that period of time? It was a couple months ago where someone kept making accounts pretending to be everybody at Fightful.
That's who I'm talking about.
Oh, it was one of those. Oh, one of them. They had. I don't even remember what they tweeted, but people at Fightful were sharing them because we were all just blocking them. So like you just block them and move on. But somehow I don't remember how it happened, but you remember Kate's like chicken tenders thing?
Oh, Christ alive. That poor girl just wanted some food.
She just wanted some chicken tenders, but
She
it
was
was an
hungry.
edit. She listened. She didn't even miss the women's match. So
She missed the entrances.
It was a whole thing, but it was an edit of the women at Fightful, or the women who were at Fightful at the time, superimposed on chicken tenders, like in a box. Did you see this? It was so good. And the picture was, the profile was pretending to be me. It was, it's gone now. Twitter took it down, but the lengths people go to, the fact that they took the time to Photoshop that, incredible. It's hilarious.
It is. Because you just have to laugh. It's like, it's
never going to stop.
No, and it's ridiculous. And I feel like, you really kind of toughen up when you experience things like that. And for me, I've been on the internet for like over a decade at this point, and I was like 11 making YouTube videos, and people were calling me fat and telling me to off myself. So if I can get through that, these trolls on Twitter mean nothing to me.
That's definitely the thing for me. I feel like everything has evolved so much that we have such a nice community. Like all of us here right now have such a nice community on the internet, and I don't want to say that like my husband and my brother both have like a little bit of a feminine side, but like they understand. They're like, oh, you're going through this? That's fucked up. Like, oh, so they're talking about you. They you've made it. So like I have like an internet support group, and then I have like a support here at home for sure. And I hope everybody does. And if you don't, please follow me at, what am I now? Daisy J Stone. I don't know. I don't even know my last name anymore. But I will be your friend. I will be your mom now. Please, I will support you. But it's that like support group now. Like, I know, Greg, you've defended me, and like some like people are fucking weird on the internet. But like it to me, it's like so like, I don't know. I can't be mean. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's how I was raised, but like, if I'm mean to somebody, I apologize like 17 times when I know I was wrong. But, and like my husband and my brother, like my mom, everybody is the same way. So I don't know, maybe we were raised differently, but I don't know. Like even in my internet community, like little sphere, like I'm still the same way.
I'm pretty sure the problem at 99% of them is that they need to get laid and nobody wants to. So.
Incels, yes.
Absolutely.
All right.
That's what Jason says, like, oh, you haven't gotten pee? And I'm like, yeah, probably. or whatever you want. Anything consensual, safe, whatever you need.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Like we're a friendly group, we're a goofy group. And hey, if you have friends who dump chocolate syrup over themselves for a show, they're your friends for life. Kylie, Haley, I'll tell you later.
Okay.
Final question I want to ask, and it's kind of a big one. Why is it important to you that more women are represented in this space? And what advice would you give to some aspiring content creators, writers, whatever the case may be, that may want to enter wrestling media in some form?
When people tell you to have thick skin, you will never have thick skin. It is always going to hurt when somebody comes after you and somebody says something mean. So have that support system with you, because it's always going to suck. Like if it doesn't suck, you might need some different kind of help, but always have like your support system. Therapy is always great, like no matter what kind of media you are in. I'm the biggest proponent of therapy. So just things like that. Make sure you prioritize your mental health over anything when it comes to things like this, for sure. I've had to the past year, and it's made me a better person. It made me a better writer, a better content creator, everything.
Oh, okay, I'll go.
You looked like you were gonna talk, so I stopped.
Yeah, I was, and then Haley opened her mouth, and I was like, okay, I won't cut her off again, but I'll go. I think it's important that more women are in this space, you know, for the obvious, because I think a woman's perspective is important. But I also think the more women that are in the space and in sports media and any other like male-dominated field, the less that job is like male gendered. Mm-hmm. And I think that we're in a space where, especially when people talk about, you know, the wage gap, and they're like, well, women just take jobs that pay less. Like that's the woman's fault. But I think people don't realize so many jobs are like, this is a man's job, this is a woman's job. Yeah. And there's, you know, people who cross over, they're, you know, shamed either way. So I think the more women you bring into a man's job or like a male space, the less it is a male space, and the more it is like an equitable space. So that's always when I see women getting involved in wrestling media or wanting to get involved in wrestling media, like that's the important part, is changing the perception of this job into a space where women can come in and we don't have to have all these fears or these worries about being pushed out or bullied or abused by men in the space. And we don't have to have panels like this to really talk about these important issues. So that's like the long-term effect of why I think it's important that women come into wrestling media, and also that women who are here are actively trying to bring other women in and supporting them and holding their hands. I mentioned Alex earlier, like Alex, Kate, Cher, like women who come in and they're unsure of what they're doing, like really showing them and helping them. And I think like wrestling media, in terms of at least women, I think there's a broad community of women, and I think it's closer than it's ever been. Like we're not all like best friends going out for mimosas all the time, but I think we're at a place now where there's a large group of women who will go to bat for each other and will do, you know, these hard jobs to help each other stay in this space, because every single one is important. So,
and to Kiley's point, in recent weeks, you know, we've seen that it's not just men that are the problem, it's also women that are the problem. Yes. And creating these brands and abusing their content creators, their writers, their hosts. And it's really unfortunate, especially with the stigma with women, especially in wrestling media. But it's been really nice to see, like Kiley said, everybody come together and support them through this time, and, you know, reach out to, you know, people that own some of these brands, and, you know, putting in a good word for them, opening doors, offering them help, positions, whatever they can, to get them back up on their feet. It's been really inspiring. So.
That's awesome. All right. Well, I want to thank you, ladies, for joining us on the show tonight. It was a fantastic discussion. Let everybody know where they can find you on social media.
I think I'm at Daisy J Stone now. If you look up Daisy Ruth Stone, I'm still trying to decide what I want to be, because that's a whole other thing when you get married and change your name legally and you have a pen name, what you've been known as for 10 years. So if you see this face, it's me. If you ever need help with anything in the wrestling media sphere, the media sphere, please send me a DM. I'm your mom now. So.
You can follow me on Twitter at Kiley Wrestling. You can also see me on Fightful Overbooked on Tag Talk, Mondays at 3.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Haley_, HALEYANNE_, because sometimes people like to spell my name wrong. You know, it's a thing. But also, like Daisy said, if, you know, anybody is out there listening to this that would like advice or help or just need somebody to talk to, you need a friend, we're all here for you. Just shoot us a DM. And
there you go. All right. Thank you so much for joining us on this show. Daisy, thank you. Kylie, thank you. Haley, thank you. Maddie, thank you as always. Even though you're just kind of like a fly on the wall, which was perfectly fine.
Hey, I was about to
love you,
say, today's show was not about us.
Yeah, but that's right. It was not about us. And we also want to thank Ella J for joining. I think it's Ella J on Twitter.
I think so, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Is there an underscore in there?
There might be. I'd have to think. But if you search Ella J, you'll find her.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you to the ladies for joining us. A very important conversation. Hopefully everybody watching this will share this because this is a very important conversation to be had. Women's voices need to be heard more and more throughout the space. So thank you for joining us. We will be back with our regular goofy shenanigans next Thursday. I will not be here next Wednesday, so next Thursday on the Greg Cherry Show. So for Ruth Stone, for Kylie Fuller, for Haley Ann, and for Ella J and Maddie Buzz, I'm Greg Cherry. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good night. Don't be a jag, and we'll see you next week on the Greg Cherry Show. Have a good one.